All right, so let me share my screen. The message for today. Oh, I can't share my screen. How can we fix that? Can anybody help me fix so that I can share my screen? Make me host. It's probably the easiest. So, but let me start by sharing with you that it's
Sorry,
been
Linda. I've
a
made you
very
co-host now.
challenging week for me this week, and it's been hard for me to actually put this sermon together, even though in my heart I've been preparing this message for many months. But sometimes we have one of those weeks or days where we just feel confronted by life, and it feels like we're actually faced with the dark side of ourselves, or like the parts of ourselves that are not so pretty, the ugly sides of ourselves. And for me, this week has been one of those weeks where I have seen very clearly the things that I need to heal, the things that I need to overcome in order to step into who God needs me to be, who I'm meant to be. So can you resonate? Do you have those weeks sometimes where you just feel that things are not so easy, and that's affected in your relationships, and it just feels like there's resistance. So it's been one of those weeks. My kids have been sick. It's felt hard, but that's okay. That's life. And I felt like there's a lesson in this for me, and it's actually very much part of what I want to share in the title that I have for today, and I will share that with you now. So let me see here. All right. What is my source is the title of my message. What is my source? Because I realized when I was feeling wobbly in myself, in my spirit, and I was looking for those around me, my husband or other people, to kind of reassure me, or to get some affirmation, and uh, to basically, I basically made them source, and I wasn't relying on the ultimate source, which is God. And so that's my message today in a nutshell. But I wanted to ask you today, who has had coffee this morning? Who has had coffee? Have you had coffee this morning? Raise your hand if you had coffee. Yes, I also had coffee this morning. Did you take a shower? Did you take a shower? It's okay if you didn't take a shower because it's winter, and we don't have to take a shower every day. But most of the time we take showers and we drink coffee in the morning to get our day started. And that makes us feel good, and it makes us, have energy for the day. And it's kind of like a morning ritual. What about Hyundai K? Did you read Hyundai K today? No, nobody? A few hands, a few hands. Okay, did you pray today? Yes. So when I realized that I was wobbling, and things were feeling difficult, and I was trying to get that reassurance from outside of myself, and affirmation from my husband, from clients, from just people around me, friends, it was because I wasn't anchoring myself with my source, God. And for the last few months, the last, I don't know, 3 months especially, I've been really reaffirming my commitment um, to reawaken my spiritual life, I guess you could say, to really start my mornings with Hyundai K and prayer, and to center myself in the morning, even when I haven't gotten much sleep, or if the kids are awake and they're crawling over me, but to still let that be the start of my day. And it's made a big difference, because I felt that anchoring, and I noticed I had this reflection. Okay, I'm not feeling so good about myself, and I'm yeah, things are not easy for me this week. And also, I have not taken the time to do my morning ritual of reading 100K, of reconnecting with God, of praying, of meditating, of reflecting, of receiving that love and clarity from God. So, and I think oftentimes we forget that God is there. God is always available, ready to give us that love. And God wants to give us that love, and we need that love. We can't continue to give and be the kind of people that we aspire to be when we're running on an empty tank, when we're not fueling ourselves up with God's love. We drink our coffee and we get energy, we do our tasks for the day, but we're not connecting with God. So, and that makes all the difference. And it's not even enough to just do it in the morning or in the evening or whenever you do it. We have to continue to have this conversation with God, this prayer, or just reconnecting with the part of ourselves that's whole, our original nature, that's always been connected with God, that knows our purpose on this world, in this world, on this planet, and that knows that we have something to give. And it's like taking medicine and then it wears off eventually. We have to keep on reconnecting ourselves, or like this image shows here, we have to connect ourselves, like plug our cords into God. We need to charge ourselves up with God's love. So, and you probably heard this very true statement that the most valuable commodity today is people's attention. That's what companies want to get a hold of, is our attention. That's how marketing is being done. And that's, Netflix and other streaming services, they want to keep our attention for as long as possible. So we have to pay attention to where our attention is going, because everybody wants to grab it. Everybody wants our attention. Our phones want our attention. And there's always messages being bombarded in our space, in our energy field, pulling us in different directions, pulling our minds in different directions. And so, it's like, whether it's these little reels on social media, or whether it's the news, whether it's colleagues at work who make us feel a certain way, who make us feel bad about ourselves. In a sense, when those kind of things happen, when we start obsessing about maybe somebody's talking bad about us, or maybe just something on the news that's terrible, and of course there's a lot of that, but when we let that affect us and affect our energy in the world, that's not a good thing. That's where our responsibility is. We have to protect our energy. We have to keep ourselves intact, or in that alignment, in that connection with God, in order to be that light in the world that God needs us to be. So we really have to pay attention to our attention, and we need to keep on plugging ourselves into God's love many times per day. And so, and as I mentioned, this week, my kids have been sick. And so I wanted to show an image for you guys of my kids coming to me or my husband for love, because that happens so many times a day, probably 20 to maybe 50 times a day. They come to us just because maybe they hit an elbow, and so they want a kiss on the elbow, or they just want to feel that love. They want to be comforted, and it happens so many times a day. And it takes like one 1-2 seconds sometimes, and then they're off and doing their thing again, running around and playing. But they keep on coming back, asking for that love. And it's the same with God. God is always available. God is always there, available to give his love to us. But the problem is that we don't go to fuel ourselves up with God's love. I usually say in Swedish, I say, my kids don't tanka kärlek. They're fueling themselves up with love. And like I said, 20 to 50 times a day. So we need to do the same with God. And this image is kind of a staged image. We tried to take one yesterday. But yeah, this is the scenario. We need to rely on God. We need to let ourselves receive God's love more, because that's the center. And of course, in an ideal world, all of us are representations of God. We embody God in an ideal world. But because we're not ideal people, we're not whole, we're not true parents, we really have to connect with the ultimate source, with God, with true parents. And it's just a beautiful illustration with the parent-child relationship, because it's such a natural thing for kids to see their parents in a way as God, to come to their parents' lap to get love. And actually, there are some studies that show, and there's some books that I've read about spirituality in children, and the way that children view their parents, their relationship with their parents, is actually how they come to see God in the future. So there's that. So we have to continue to realign ourselves with God, right? And realign ourselves with the parts of ourselves that's connected with our original nature, for that side of ourselves to come out. So let's not make, the news the source of our day, or other people. Like I said, when we start obsessing about, what somebody said, or we feel really hurt because our mom said a certain thing to us, or because a sibling isn't understanding us, and then we make that the source, our source. We just we let them be the source of us feeling love, or of being a generous presence in the world. No, they're not source. God is source. So people don't have power over you. Things don't have power over you. Situations don't have power over you. Feelings don't have power over you. And yeah, God is source. So let me continue with some words from True Parents. And I want you to pay attention to here, because I didn't write down the words, so you can't see them on the screen. But I'm reading this from God's Will and the Word, a chapter called Myself. So this is True Father's words. When you think of force, what do you think of? Action. And when you think of action, you immediately think of plus and minus, subject and object. When you feel powerful, you know that some give and take action is happening, and that your mind and body must be in harmony. You must be smarter than to think it begins with you, and remember that God, your Father, gave it to you, and you resemble him. You then remember that he has the whole universe under him, and you are a small part of that universe. You are a small minus to the universe, which is the biggest possible plus. God is a big plus, and you are a small minus. But this small minus has the purpose of becoming as great as the plus. This is why you want to become great. This is perfectly logical, and something that stands to reason is reality itself. Each of us has an urge to become great, but until now, you didn't know why God and the universe also wanted you to become great. They want to pull you up like a big winch. If you go to the top of a mountain, you can actually catch up with God better. In other words, you have a broader, deeper thought. God can love you and encourage you to go higher and higher. What is God's thought? His thought is to manifest power according to the principle and to realize the ideal world. Will he do that by force? Is God going to make the world great because he has all knowledge? Could the strongest man on earth make the ideal world? Harvard professors are proud of their knowledge, but could they do it? What is the essence that can make the ideal world? True love. And then it continues here. We have to have some perspective of life, some awareness of our purpose. When we have that in ourselves, then we can go there. With this life perspective, you can know why the world has to be peaceful and how that can happen through love. And then your entire plan and idea can come to one focal point. Only a handful of people on the face of the earth know that they should be living with their purpose and direction, taking them toward love. If that prevails in the world, then the earth can become peaceful. Now, when I ask you who you are in a position to answer for the first time. I'm the one who is supposed to go toward the purpose of love on the universal level. We know that all things exist for man because man has love. The animals and plants willingly sacrifice for man because he is reaching for the objective of love with God. You like steaks, don't you? Do you eat a steak for your own enjoyment, or do you think that the steak will help you get nearer the love of God? If it were for love, then the meat would be glad to be eaten and say, "Eat me quickly." That meat also craves love. A stick of celery wants to continue its own life, but when you eat it, you can say, "I assure you that through me, you will come closer to God's love." If a person is perfect in this respect, all things will want to tag along and be eaten by him. Money will want to be earned by him. Today, men chase money, but the money runs away. If you become a person of original purpose, however, then money will follow you. If another person follows after money, the money will be scared, thinking, "A tiger is after me." That person will end up in hell. Would you rather follow money or love? And that's another point is, how often don't we make money source? We make the bank statement, how much money we have on the bank, the source of us being happy or sad that day, or generous, or holding on to love, essentially, hosting a dinner or not, or being generous with our words or not. And we wake up in the morning and go to work. Why do we go to work? Can we realign ourselves with our original purpose and who we are and who God wants us to be, instead of, I'm going to work for money or something like that, So that's also a place where we replace God as source with something else. And I also want to share from the Mother of Peace and see what True Mother says here, in a way that connects with this message. So in the chapter, "I came into this world as the only begotten daughter," it says, okay, in this way, I grew up feeling honored that I was the daughter of God, the daughter of the Lord. My maternal grandmother, Jewel Mo, also looked into my eyes and told me clearly, "God is your father." Because of that, whenever I heard the word father, my heart would burst in my chest. For me, the word father brought to mind not my own father, but our Heavenly Father. Because of such love in my home, I never worried about my life, despite our poverty and despite my father not being with us. I always was content. This was because I knew that God was my father, that he was my reason for being alive, and that he was always right there by my side, taking care of me. I sensed that God was my real parent from the moment of my birth. Yeah. That's how clear it was for True Mother. No matter what they went through, poverty and, war and all the things that True Parents went through, they knew that God was with them always. And think about the amount of time that True Parents spend each day in prayer and meditation and just being with God. And they don't have the same conflict that we have inside of ourselves. So if they have to, and they still do it, so of course we have to make the effort to connect with God, of being with God, of realigning our hearts, our spirits, our energy with God as our source, right? So that's the end of my sermon today. That's my message.